Oh, today on the show we have John Robinson. John is a partner at Mazarine Climate. They are a VC firm in London that specialize in water and wastewater. Now, a question you might ask yourself is what does that mean? What does it mean to specialize in water or in wastewater? That's exactly a question I had before this conversation, and that is exactly what we talk about. A quote from John that you'll hear a lot is that it's difficult to be in the water industry because everything is the water industry. It's hard to get people excited about water because everyone knows water. Very interesting concept about the idea of water, given an example that John gives, is the agricultural industry. People describe crop growing and farms and things to be within this umbrella of the agricultural industry, but the agricultural industry would be nothing without water. So are they also in the water industry? Are they not? From an investment, from a technological advancement, from an evolution standpoint, definitions like these are very important. And having language to describe different problems enable society to come up with different solutions and then bring people more sustainable, clean, dependable water and these types of things. And so very interesting conversation about how to understand water as an industry and as it breaks down into different markets. So if you're interested in that type of stuff, get ready because you're going to learn a lot. Thank you, as always, to our partners, Craze and Friends Clean Tech Growth Lab. If you're looking to grow in clean tech, you work with Clean Tech Growth Lab. If you're in any other industry, you work with the producers of this podcast, Craze and Friends. And now, I bring you John. Oh, welcome to another episode of The Grove. Thank you to our sponsors, mentioned just before the start of this episode here. But without them, it would not be possible to interview awesome people doing awesome things like John. Welcome.
Hey, it's great to be here, Blake. Thanks for the invitation.
Oh, absolutely. So as people have been listening and previous guests know, water is one of my favorite things to talk about. And anyone that has spent any amount of time on any of your profiles know that you spent a lot of time in the area. And you actually just said something very interesting before we even just started this conversation that I'm excited to learn more about. So for anyone that doesn't know yet, if you could give a brief introduction of yourself and what you're building
Yeah, John Robinson. I've been in the water/wastewater industry for about 17 years. Most of that time, actually, now that I'm getting deeper into the industry, into my career in the space, half of the time I ran a consultancy that was rendering advisory services to companies with technologies that manage water or wastewater, sensors, monitors, pumps, filters, membranes, valves, the equipment and technology of managing water and wastewater, advising them on strategy, specifically for Asia. And then a few years ago, I got together with some friends in the water wastewater industry, and we decided to form an investment group entirely focused on backing early stage companies inventing and bringing to market technology solutions that help their customers manage some aspect of water or wastewater. We invested in our Fund 1 into 15 companies. All of them were young and now they're growing. One of the companies has been acquired, and then another company we had a liquidity event. So we've had a couple interesting events in that fund. And then last year, we decided to launch a new fund, which is a slight modification of our thesis that takes us into the climate adaptation world, specifically through the lens of water risk. Yeah, and so that's who I am. I live in London, but I'm originally from Chicago. And little known fact is I speak Mandarin Chinese relatively fluently.
Which I also saw on your profile, which I think is crazy. I mean, that takes a while to acquire, right?
Yeah, it was fun. I lived in China and I picked up a foundation for it, and then just built on top of that. And it's been a lot of fun being able to converse in a foreign language fluently.
So have you always there's a massive theme, water. You made you distinguished between water and wastewater, which I think is very interesting. But before we get to that, have you always envisioned yourself in clean tech, climate tech, in water? Or was there something that happened at some point where you said
Yeah,
this is my
I think it
future?
was living in China for so many years. One becomes aware of environmental and health related risks relating to air and water and food. Not that the rest of the world doesn't have contaminated air and water and food, but China, the air pollution used to be, and it still is pretty challenging. And so anybody paying attention is going to be like, this is probably not good for me. And the air looks bad, but the water's probably bad too. How do I test it, monitor it?
Okay.
And so I became aware of the water as a health risk when I lived in China, and I didn't know what to do with it. I was working in another sector then. I was working in commercial real estate, and I didn't know what to do with that insight or that passion. And then it was when I moved back to the U.S., I was at Deloitte in a strategy role, and I sat next to a senior individual at a big engineering house, and he really helped me catalyze that interest and turned it into a new career path. So I left Deloitte, I strategized my way out of Deloitte's strategy group, and I created my own new career within water and wastewater as a consultant. And I haven't looked back. So it really took living in a place that had very compromised and impaired water for me to get awareness of it, and then it took an impromptu kind of a conversation, a serendipitous conversation, as to say, on an airplane, to really get clarity into this is actually a path I should pursue. And then built a consultancy, and then on top of the consultancy, now run a venture fund.
Well, so what is it that is there something I love to ask people is anything before you made that transition into running your own practice, the lifestyle of entrepreneurship, all of these things, transitioning from corporate to that headspace, was there anything from your career beforehand that you found specifically influenced the way that you navigated? I guess the first one, the first project, which was the consultancy.
I think me getting on an airplane and flying to the other side of the planet and figuring things out over there, learning and translating a challenging new world into things I could understand, gave me two things. One is the entrepreneurial sort of toolbox to figure things out, gritty, and finding ways to get stuff done. And then also the ability to translate the nebulous and the foreign into something that is like easy for anybody to understand. Toolbox. So entrepreneuring your way forward in life, figuring things out, and identifying opportunities, and then the translation of confusing into clarity were two things that I developed by going over to Asia and living there. And then when it came time to leave Deloitte and start my own thing, I was able to entrepreneur myself into a new track fearlessly. Didn't mean it was easy, but I was like, I'm going to do this. And then the first few clients, they wanted to get into China and sell their wares there. It was all water and wastewater related technologies. And I was able to translate what looked like a big market and there's billions of people and they buy our things into something more bite-sized that they could go after. And so translating the confusing into clarity for clients was what they were paying for. And then going over there with the clients and helping them navigate the world that I had already navigated was something that I could do easier than other consultants because I had already done it. And then helping them do it was something I could share.
Yeah, part of the reason I ask is because I think there's a number of people that, I mean, I know a number of people personally, so that means there's a lot of people I think that are in corporate environments or in steady careers that have this aspiration, that have the drive that you did, that have a passion about something that matters, and have the capability to go off on their own and really make an impact in that space, but just haven't made that leap yet. And so I think stories like yours are helpful because they show people that it is possible, even if it is hard, like you're saying. So is there any specific advice, if you could talk to yourself or something that person that you spoke to, anything specific that you would tell yourself right before you made that journey?
Don't get caught up on price tag for whatever you're selling. Get some reference, get some experience. It's tempting to be like, this is valuable what I'm offering you, whether it's a product or service. This is worth $10,000. You need to pay it, or otherwise I'm not doing it. What's more important in the early days than making money is getting some reference, getting some traction, getting a couple of them done, even if they're for free or pro bono. Go out there and say, like, I've already done a couple, or I've done 10. And then you get deeper along, then you can start to like be pretty rigid in your pricing and be like, this is what it costs to do this. But the mistake I made was sticking to my guns on pricing. And I think I lost some opportunities because I was like, this is $100,000 to do all this stuff. And the guy was like, that's too expensive. And he'd never done this before except like once. And I was like, yeah, but it's expensive. You got to do that. I valued my services in a way that narrowed the market demand, narrowed the demand of the market down for what I was doing because I didn't have the cred. And I thought I did, but I didn't.
Got it.
So if I could do it over again, I would have just slashed that price in half and be like, man, I'll do this for 50,000. And he'd be like, okay, great. And then off and running, less margin, less self-worth. I'm worth more than this.
Yeah, yeah.
But then over time, then you get a track record of 5 or 6 or 7 different things, and then you can go out and charge what you want. I didn't know that. So I think the advice I'd given myself back then is like, get reference is more important than revenue. Early days. Eventually revenue becomes everything.
Yeah.
Or profit becomes everything, but like, don't over obsess with revenue in the first few months. That's assuming you have some cash to like make it through the first year.
Right.
You got some savings. And if you don't have savings, and like, then starting a business, then it does become about like, you've got to put food on the table, you got to sell and generate income to pay for your mortgage and your rent or your food.
Great. Well, I think, regardless of how, because you mentioned for free, there's still a potential to make some revenue, but, undersell in your own perspective. Anyway, I just think that's a great point. And I appreciate you bringing that up because that's really useful. So something that we mentioned a bunch already that I would like you to get into is, can you first, to lay a foundation, what is the difference between the water industry in your mind, or in your guys' definition, and wastewater?
I mean, water is complicated because everybody on the planet knows what it is. If you say cryptocurrency or semiconductors or autonomous vehicles, that's like foreign and confusing. I don't really know what that is. Like if you talk to my mom or a child, like what is antibiotics or something like that. You get technical terms that people don't know, and it becomes valuable as a domain of knowledge because they don't know what it is, and that means it must be hard to access. Every single human being has used water already today. They know what it is. They know the right temperature. They know the taste. They've used it a few times. Like, I already know water. I'm good there. Let's get back to cryptocurrency and driverless vehicles. There's way more interesting. So the challenge with water, I'll start with water first, is that even though it's the most important thing in the world, it is life, it's hard to get people's attention unless they're like, there's a flood coming at them and they're running away from the flood. Then obviously you get some people's attention, but it's hard to get people excited about something that they're already an expert in. Everyone knows what it is. Even kids know what water is. They know it, and they know it immediately works. You put it on a plant, it grows. You put it in your body, you feel hydrated. You take a shower, you're clean. You wash the dishes, you're clean. Like, water works without any engineering. But that's not true, though, because behind the scenes, there's like tons of engineering to get it to you and then render it. So that it's an industry that is hard to communicate because everybody already knows what it is. And they want to talk about things that are more nuanced and complicated. Number 2, aisle 6 in the supermarket. Fiji water, glacier water, Perrier. I mean, is that the water industry? Yeah, that's water. That's the water industry. But people go, no, that's not the water industry. That's drinking water industry. It's like, well, confusion. Then you've got the utility in your town, and they're selling you water. That's the water industry. And so you have different water industries that lays on another bit of complexity there. So essentially, for your audience, you've got 3 different markets relating to water. You have the sellers of the stuff, utilities. And they have inefficiencies and risks, and they need technology and tools to sell water to your house or to commercial customers. That is a massive business, but it's bureaucratic and slow and political because it's so politicized. Water should be free, and any city in the world probably has some politics around water and raising rates and all that whole world. Let's call that market A. The rendering of water as utility for people. Number 2, let's call it market B, is the use, owners and operators of assets that use water. Farmers. They're not selling water, they're not a utility, but guess what the most important input in farming is? Water. It's like the whole business. But they're not in the water industry. They're in growing peanuts and carrots and whatever business, but they need water to generate. In my home, water is used for hygiene. Water is used for health. Water is used for cooking. We're not in the water business, but water is core to operating of my household. It's kind of in water, even though we're not in the water business. You talk to guys in power plants, thermoelectric power, coal and nuclear, gas. They will tell you in the very first sentence, the whole business of generating power relies on water. Cooling. It's crucial. Not solar and wind. But you go to any power plant, they're always next to rivers. Always. Or next to the ocean. And then you get into hydropower, damming up rivers. The whole business of that business.
So how do you define the industry with all of this?
So that's users of water to accomplish some other goal. Energy, hygiene, crops. They're using water to accomplish some other goal. So water is the most important thing in my house for hygiene. Okay. Water is the most important thing for power. Water is the most important thing for farmers. And then you got fish farming, aquaculture, like those crabs and shrimp and everything. It's all in water. They're in the using of the water business to accomplish some other goal. Traditionally, that's how you made your money in broadly defined water, is sell hardware and software solutions to people and companies and organizations that are using it to accomplish something else, and they have inefficiencies and risks in that whole process. Like you have a leak in your house, or your dishwasher doesn't work, or your water smells, your water's dirty. Like you need to buy a filter, you need to buy a new dishwasher. Like dishwasher and washing machine, that essentially is water tech. The whole business of dishwashing and washing clothes is water. Mm-hmm. But no one would think of that as the water industry. It's like the use of water to accomplish some other goal. So that's market B, massive market. Think about how many agriculture. Think about power gen. Think about how many billions of people in the world use water to accomplish hygiene goals every day. The third and final market is the indirect exposure to water risk. Insurance. You talk to guys who work in insurance. Guess what the number one claim globally is in the world? Not burglary, not fire.
Flooding.
Water damage. A leak on the second floor, guess what? You can't rent out the first floor. Or in my own home, a leak in the kitchen means the basement has to be remodeled, paint job, the carpet, like super disruptive and expensive. Claim. So if you're insurance, you're like, whoa, I got to keep on top of this. Like water leaks in property and then it's flooding externally. And then that gets into financing. All right, so you want to borrow how many million to build what? You want to build a condo right next to the river? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great place for a condo. It's like, I think that river floods. It's like, nah, it doesn't flood. It floods. We're not loaning you the money. So all of a sudden, bankers, They're not sellers of the stuff. They're not using the stuff, unless in the bank and the toilets. Obviously, they're using water for flushing in the bank and toilets, but like they're not using water to accomplish their lending goals. Water becomes a headache for insurance. And then you got guys who are long, short traders, derivatives traders. They're trying to long corn, short soy, long in ag futures, derivatives, futures. Rainfall over Iowa all of a sudden matters. Well, what's rain? Water. Mm-hmm. So if it's a very dry summer, you can start to short ag futures or long futures if it's how you're playing the futures. So that those guys aren't using water, that's selling water. They have exposure to water risk in their holdings. And then you get companies who have manufacturing facilities around the world, and like they have a straw in the ground to get groundwater to manufacture their product, like a food and beverage business or pulp and paper business or any apparel manufacturing. They need tons of water. They're not in the water business, but they have exposure to water risk in the basin of the watershed they operate in, headaches. So 3 different markets. So you're already like, have your hand in your head, you're like, I'm confused. Because water just means the water business. But the reason water is so complicated is because you've got different water industries. And then layer on top of that the wastewater side of things, which is a whole different industry. Industry.
So so you said there's 3 markets in water.
In
water, correct. So what you just said was insurance and investment and things like
No. Sellers of the stuff is market A.
Right, market A.
Utilities.
Market B are the consumers.
Market B is users of the stuff.
Okay, and then C.
And market C is exposure to the stuff.
Good. So this is how you guys
frame,
or at least your
frame water. Our fund.
Your fund. Okay, understood.
How we frame water, and then wastewater.
Right. So now
you can lay on a similar framework. So there's no one's selling wastewater really. It's dealing with it and managing it. The city or the utility that takes it from your toilet and from your house and from the industrial, like they're dealing with it. And you pay them to deal with the wastewater. So that is a utility that's rendering a service. No one's using wastewater. It's just like, I want to send it to somebody, I'll pay them to deal with it. And so the wastewater business is really like garbage collection. It's a super valuable service, but like there's no usage of the stuff and there's very little. I mean, I guess the risk there is that if sewage gets into the drinking water, then it's a public health and safety risk.
Okay. So you have a company that for example, says that they're in the wastewater industry. What does that mean? How do you make sense of that? Are they just selling to wastewater facilities? Is that the only
in the wastewater? So a company that is in the wastewater business. So there's the companies that actually own the wastewater treatment plant. Mm-hmm. That is a company. They need to buy pumps and valves and pipes, chemicals, and biological activity to render their service for their customers.
Okay.
So you've got solutions providers, service providers, vendors who sell to the wastewater treatment plant. And they're buying hardware like a pump and then like software to manage the operations of the plant. That gets into data. So if someone's in the wastewater business, they are in the business of selling goods and services to wastewater treatment plants, and the wastewater treatment plant is selling remediation or treatment to their customers who have wastewater to deal with.
Understood. Okay, so now that we have this foundation, is there anything else you'd like to add? Because that was wonderful. I really appreciate that walkthrough. So we have 3 subsections of water. We have this this high level understanding of wastewater. Selling into these companies.
That's one way to frame. Yeah, that's sort of like that's the landscape. That's the landscape of discussion.
Good. So I got the landscape. So I'm looking around. So when you guys are in it, right? And so you've already raised a fund. You said you invested in several companies. You can go anywhere you want with this question because I think we could talk for hours probably about it. But I guess one of the first things that come to mind when I ask this question: what's happening in these industries? What's happening in water? What's something to be aware of, concerned of? What's a topic of conversation right now?
I think a few things, 3 things. Number one is the technology breakthroughs of the last 10 or 5 or 2 years. AI. has brought efficiencies to the production of data on water. So what's in the water, how much water is there, like level of water and availability of water and rainfall, and then like what microbes and chemical pollution or analytes are in the water that I'm drinking. That used to be how much water and then what's in the water used to be a very complicated, expensive question to answer. You send water to a lab to do something. Like, you had to rely on some complicated modeling to understand rainfall and groundwater availability. The Industry 4.0 toolbox has brought the cost of understanding water way down. Let's call it like almost full democratization of water quantity, too much, too little, and water quality, what's in it. That used to be an expensive question. Now it's much cheaper than it's ever been in humanity. So if people pick your disadvantaged neighborhood are concerned with, or country are concerned with flooding and quantity, or PFAS or lead in the water, it's never been cheaper than it is today to understand the answer to those two questions. That's number one. So the question is, as an investor or a business, how are you exploiting that? Or how are you leveraging that to generate impact for people who can't help themselves? So it's the democratization of tools, software, analytics, and hardware is the biggest opportunity happening in the space right now. And if you were money trying to figure out how to play water, I would look at some of the inflections going on around us in AI and remote sensing. I mean, I'll give you an example, like Earth observation, satellite. Mm-hmm. Everyone knows what a satellite is and takes pictures of the Earth. You get a black and white photo of your property, whatever. Like, that's not new. The cost of using high resolution synthetic aperture or just imagery or any other sort of satellite generated insights of water used to be expensive. It's now become very cheap.
Okay.
Very cheap. Maybe a farmer in the middle of, like, I don't know, they're going to be hard to afford this stuff, but like more of humanity now can benefit from satellite tech relating to water quantity and quality than they ever have before.
Okay, so
what used to be expensive is now convenient and easy. That's trend number one.
Gotcha.
And as a fund, we have built our thesis around that.
Okay. Yeah, you said there were two more. I didn't want to cut you off.
The second one is in our house we have a water filtration device in our kitchen. Everyone kind of knows what a Brita filter is, or you can get something that connects to your sink or under the sink or whole home, a fridge filter. I would think of that as health tech.
Okay.
Not water tech, not the water industry. The reason you filter water in your home, whether it's activated carbon or reverse osmosis, is all about health. That's it. There's no other reason to filter it. I guess aesthetics or whatever, but like it really is health. The residential water business in the next 5 years will transition from being plumbing and kind of dinosaurial equipment to being much more Peloton. The exercise bike, it's in the basement, you ride the exercise bike. Boom, Peloton comes along. Mm-hmm. Totally reimagines the way that exercise bikes and exercise equipment work for people. So let's call it the Pelotonization of drinking water in our homes. So the first one, let's call it the QuickBooksization of testing and monitoring tools to understand what's happening. Second one is the Pelotonization of water in the home, making it easier for people to, and kind of sexier and more sophisticated than like, I got a plumber coming in to install something in my basement.
So it'd be like the rise of people being interested in monitoring, I guess, because you're saying
health,
it's getting cheaper.
Health. People are interested in health. Always have been, always will be, but it's like, I don't know, water, what do I? So there's a crop of companies coming up in the next few years that will Pelotonize this to make it cool. There's a company that I'm invested in London called Skooma, Skuma, that is like one of the upstarts that's trying to make drinking water in the kitchen more of like an espresso machine, more cool, more interesting, more stylish. When people go in your kitchen, they're like, "Well, what is this?" It's like, it's a health technology.
Well, I feel like I've seen at least expensive water machines happen in like corporate offices. So
Yeah. Well, they maybe look big and expensive, but like who knows what's going on inside there?
yeah.
So, but bringing it to the human. I mean, at Peloton, like those things are not cheap.
Yeah.
So I've seen expensive like Stairmaster machines and gyms, but like how can I get them at my home? Like Peloton comes along. So it's. I mean, the average person maybe can't afford a Peloton, but like increasingly people want sophisticated exercise equipment in their homes, and the cost is coming down.
Cool. What's the
third
one?
the third and final area of opportunity in this whole water broadly defined thematic area is the too much water problem. Flooding, sea level rise is way more problematic for humanity than, oh my God, we're running out of this stuff.
And that's the adaptation.
It's counterintuitive. It's counterintuitive. The reptilian brain that we all have is like, I'm running out of time, I'm running out of money, I'm running out of resources, running out, which like over hundreds of thousands of millions of years, humans have like been honed in on like the running out of things problem, because that's survival. Arizona, Utah, California, yes, there is scarcity in the world and it's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look side by side with flooding and too much water, the thing that will bring humanity to its knees is too much water.
So is that the adaptation angle that you were?
That's adapting. So adaptation, adapting to preparing and adjusting and dealing with too much water is something that humanity will have to come to grips with. It doesn't mean we don't have to come to grips with not enough water. If you're in Saudi Arabia or Kuwait or Qatar, they have to come to grips with like they just don't have enough water. So there is a market for scarcity and drought, and there's technologies that can render that.
Yeah.
Whether it's atmospheric water generation, desalination of seawater, water recycling, like there is a business there. I would argue as a checkbook that the too much water problem and the business investment opportunities in the too much water problem are way more compelling than the scarcity problem. And I would debate that with anyone. So let's call this third bucket the
too much water problem.
The too much water headache is bigger than the scarcity. The too much water problem.
That seems very descriptive. I mean, I think that
that's
too
much
good.
water.
And
then it's not to pay short shrift to the quality problems. So there's the problem. Like the thing about like so many other industries is like they're kind of one dimensional. Like wind, you've got wind, you don't have wind. You've got wildfires. Like obviously, no fires is better than fires.
Right.
And you've got wind, like no wind is better than too much wind. And you've got like heat, like you don't want too much heat. You want just water has the problem of like it's a two-headed monster, and one of the heads has two heads. So it's three heads. It's the quantity head, which is too much. That will screw you, and too little, that will screw you too. And the other head is impairment, polluted, contaminated.
Yeah,
that will screw you too. In fact, every day, something like 7,000 people die every day from contaminated water, globally. That's the biggest killer. The second biggest killer is too much, and the third biggest killer is not enough.
Well, so to end. Just quickly, because I know we're coming up on time with a problem like, and I guess the same goes for quality. But as far as the too much water problem, I mean, who would be the beneficiaries? Are the humans that whatever are benefiting from that technology, that adaptation technology? But ultimately, if you're a company and you're developing a technology, are you just looking for government? I don't know, insurance. No. Like who?
Yeah, insurance. So a few different industries. The first industry that has the biggest headache here is what we call linear assets: roads, rails, pipelines. These are assets that go on for hundreds of thousands of miles. Like a hospital. A hospital has a footprint. There it is. Yeah, there's some quality risk, maybe a little flooding in the hospital, but like the footprint is what it is, and you can kind of see and understand what the problems this asset has from a financing and insurance health and safety perspective. This is the hospital, or this is the house. Here's the risk. You get a road, like a highway. It goes on for hundreds of miles. Every single mile has a slightly different risk profile, or a rail line, or a pipeline, whether it's gas pipeline or water pipeline. So you're going around mountains, you're going around hillsides. Like you go this side of the mountain, that side of the mountain. Very different risk profile for that. The water risk for linear assets is flooding, but it's also landslides and rock slides and mudslides that are triggered by massive rain events. If it rains over a mountainside and you've got like a pipeline or a rail line or a road going in it, that the rain's going to loosen up the rock and loosen up the land, and you get a collapse of the hillside. Not great for the road, rail, or pipeline down there because of the, and if there's people down there, they die. And then you got to reconnect the rail, you got to reconnect the road, you got to reconnect the pipeline. So owners and operators of linear assets are on the very front lines of the too much water problem.
And additionally, the insurance companies that
Underwrite, yeah, they underwrite. The owners and operators, and then their stakeholders, which is the financing of and the insurance of. So if you're an owner pipeline or you own a rail line, you're like, yeah, we're worried about landslide. The insurance is like, I want to listen to this conversation because, like, if you're making claims, like it was a landslide and now we got to it's going to be $10 million to repair this thing. The insurance company doesn't want to hear that. They want to hear that you're proactive on this stuff.
Yeah.
Number one, linear assets are in big trouble in the next decade because of too much water.
No, dude.
They know that, and they're using tools to see and understand where and how they have exposure to risk.
Cool.
That's a technology. That's a technology that will be in high demand for the rest of time.
Well,
number two, coastal infrastructure, ports, harbors, and marinas. If you own a port, or you operate a port, or a harbor, or marina, the owner of it, and then the boats themselves, or have their own owners, whether it's like a yacht or like a massive container ship, because of sea level rise and storm surges and problems with the ocean because of climate change. Warming ocean means more algal blooms and more change in water chemistry, which means like the scaling and fouling of your boat's going to change. They have a lot to lose in the next decade. So they are looking for technologies to see and understand where and how the ocean becomes a problem for their asset, whether it's the port and harbor marina itself or the assets within it, the floating assets within it. They have headaches, and they will spend a lot of money to manage that risk.
Interesting.
So these first two industries I talk about, private sector, private sector, private sector. There's some marinas that are publicly owned, but you're always like, water, the government. I mean, you ask me, like, isn't the government?
Yeah.
Those two. Let's talk about power generation, private as well. Because in some countries like China, that's like publicly owned or whatever. But like most power plants and rivers, they suffer from the scarcity problem. Not enough snowpack in the mountains, not enough water in the river. You got to take tower 2 down because we can't produce enough power. That's bad for the customers who rely on the power. You have brownouts and blackouts because like not enough water in the river means not enough draw for cooling, which means you can't produce as much power as you're able to, which means a problem for the grid. So that's a scarcity issue, which is still a problem. It's just we happen to still extend water, too much water problem. But then the last and probably the big one here is what we call the fire sector, finance, insurance, and real estate. Globally, owners and operators of real estate and their finance and insurance, which gets into coastal infrastructure and linear assets as well, but like we kind of separate this into like fire sector, finance, insurance, real estate. It's one big industry, one macro industry, because they all are so interlinked. They have the need to see and understand what the risk is for X, Y, and Z asset or their portfolio of things they own.
Sure.
Whether it's a small landlord, like a small, let's say I own 5 properties around Cleveland, Ohio. Like I need to know the flood risk of those 5 properties. Or I'm a bigger player and I'm like, I own 4,000 properties around the country. Or I'm a resort owner. Or I own the land beneath all the McDonald's in New York. Like, what's my exposure? So they need data and analytics on their exposure to flooding risk. And if it's not a flood risk, then they can go to the insurance guy and they go to the financing guy and be like, this is not risky. Look, I've got the data. And then it's even stuff like, so it's finance, insurance, real estate related. It's, instead of being long-winded on this, finance, insurance, real estate probably has the most at stake in the next decade relating to flooding. And they will tech up and they will use 2026 tools to see and understand where and how they're in trouble. And then they will navigate out of that trouble once they have the data.
Well, John, I mean, I guess similar to what we've been talking about, I feel like there's too many questions that I have for the amount of time allocated for this episode at the moment. So we might have to do, a lot of these, because I think a lot of what you're talking about as far as framing the problem, framing the industry, and bringing it from this abstract thing, like you were speaking to at the beginning, framing this abstract thing, water, and making it very tangible, working down the framework, working down the lines of thinking. I really appreciate that you did that. My 2 favorite questions to ask everybody is, at the moment, what is the biggest hurdle that you feel like you're facing, within the fund or anything, and how is it also an opportunity?
The biggest challenge I have right now is as a manager is deciding what opportunity to focus on. We have probably 25 deals on our desk right now, and they're all run by smart people who are well-intentioned and creative. Can't invest in all of them. And so narrowing that down to like 5, it's hard. And then narrowing the 5 down to like 1 or 2, even harder. So the problem is separating this is narrowing, the narrowing problem. And AI is helpful, but you never have complete data on these companies to understand the prospects for growth. All of these companies say they'll do well. Oh, we're going to double our sales next year. So you got to prioritize, and you got to spend the limited hours you have every day to figure out which of the ones require me to spend a few hours in this, and which ones warrant further investigation, and which ones are like, I just don't think it's worth it. Yeah. That's the biggest hurdle. And I would say every fund manager in the world has the same problem. Yeah. It's figuring out what to prioritize. And the second question was on...
Well, I mean, you answered it. I mean, that is an opportunity in itself. That's what I'd asked. How
the opportunity is for sellers of AI tools to pitch me and say, we have a tool to help make that problem go away.
Yeah. And so the final question, with all the work that you're doing, the questions that we've discussed and things, curious what inspires you.
My children, and leaving a legacy that they can be proud of. Thinking about what world they're going to inherit, and then as they get older and they start to come up out in the world, and there's so much bad in the world, and there's so much just fuckery in the world. Pardon my French, but there's good, and I want to be a force for good. I know it sounds cliche, but I want my career to help make things a little bit better than how I found it. And again, that sounds cliche. Everyone tries to say the same thing, but I really genuinely think that one can do that if you focus on something you're passionate about, and you can make some incremental improvements. And so, the bedrock of our whole fund is democratization of tools, helping more of humanity manage their water headaches. Mm-hmm. It's a farmer in Bangladesh or a business owner in Baltimore. Water's coming for them. And I'll leave you with this one final metaphor. Water, our protagonist, the giver of life. Water's the planet. Our bodies are 7% water. Water is the protagonist in our story. It's communities were always built on water, and early hydropower, a few hundred years ago, was always water, and the navigation was water. Water was the hero in humanity's story. Still is. But water, the antagonist, the anti-hero, is quickly rising up on stage to disrupt our story like any antagonist does. To keep water, the antagonist, off stage, we've got technology. It's 2026. This isn't 1986. Human beings have created all kinds of interesting tools to manage that water, the anti-hero, and keep it off stage as much as possible. People have always died in floods. It's like the Bible. People have always died in floods, and they will probably always die in floods, unfortunately. I know that sounds dark, but you come back 1,000 years from now, people will be killed by water. So that's a constant. Flooding is always killed, but it's getting worse because of climate change and because of how we built cities and bad public policy, and people live next to rivers and they live in the cement everywhere is putting water. It's getting worse, but what's getting better, and the one step on the climate staircase that doesn't creak is technology enables us to manage that risk, to keep water the antagonist off stage.
Water the protagonist.
And water the antagonist. I mean, but you talk to people out on Main Street, water is life. Yeah, water is our most precious resource. Water is everything. Factual. Yeah. But not helpful as a business or investment professional. It's like saying honesty is important. Yeah, honesty is important. We need to be more honest. Yeah, people need to be more honest. Yeah. Right. What are you going to do with that? Oh, health. People need to be more healthy. They need to exercise more and eat better. Yeah. People need to... Like, water's life. Like, yeah, so what? Well, we need to value it more. It's like, not if there's a wall of water coming at you and you're running away from a floodwater. Like, water's therefore is death. Water's death for you. Yeah. Like, well, but you know what I mean. Water's life. We're running out of it. So it's a nebulous. Going back to the bigger conversation. It's a nebulous space that everybody already knows water, and so therefore they're not that curious about it because they already know what it is, and it doesn't really matter to them until they have a wall of water coming at them, or they just don't have it, or it's like boiler, don't drink it, and then all of a sudden it matters for a few minutes, and then they go back to whatever they're doing, and they focus on their checkbook problem and their weight problem and their friend problem and their bank account problem and their all these other more immediate problems until it becomes a problem. But
well, John, this has been awesome. I mean, I think you definitely did justice to the idea of at least anti-villainizing, or at least clearing the story of what It's funny you say things like people know water, and I think that's true. And I'm a person you would be speaking to. I mean, I have water next to me. I used water this morning, like I'm alive. And you say people know water, and I feel like after this conversation, like I don't know water. At the same time, I mean, I can't put it any better than that off the top of my head, but I do feel like that's true. It's like, people know water, but there's a lot that people don't know about water. So it's like you said, there's multiple heads with that.
I think, Blake, the problem is it's so esoteric. I'll give an example, and I know you might have to limit this down a little bit. We're a little bit over, but my next call is I just have to prep for it. But
you got it. Go for it.
When it comes to water, everyone knows what energy footprint is or carbon footprint is. You say that, everyone's like, yeah, carbon footprint. Turn the lights off and use less fuel, carbon footprint. Got it. Water footprint. So what is your water footprint in any given day? It's like, well, I took a shower, flushed the toilet, drank some water, washed my hands. I don't know, you calculate it up. It's like, I use 10, 20 gallons of water in the US, or liters. I use 40 gallons of water. That's only about a fifth of your water use every day. And people took a shower, washed the dishes. A fifth? It's like, where's the rest of my water use? I didn't wash my car. Mm-hmm. They're thinking direct water use. Most of your water use is actually indirect or virtual water. Like power plants use water. So if you switch on the lights and you run your HVAC in your house, that's pulling water. It's pulling power from the grid, and that power is generated by using tons and tons of water. Power is a big part of your water footprint. Every time you turn a light switch, that's a water decision. But it's so abstract.
Right,
the second thing is food. The second thing is food.
Okay, they want to be part of the conversation. They know you're saying something important.
Vegetables don't really require a lot of water to grow, but meat requires tons of water. So every time you have a piece of meat, you're talking thousands of gallons of water to grow. It's not the cow drinking water. It's the water put on the soy and the corn that the cow ate. So you eat a cheeseburger, that's about 1,000 gallons of water. Yeah. You eat a steak, that's about 3,000 gallons of water. And then the cotton that's in your bed sheets. If you buy a new set of sheets, that's a 4,000 gallon decision right there. Yeah. It's so abstract.
It is. It's
so esoteric. It is that people are just thinking direct water use. So I don't expect most people to ever really understand all the nuances of water. They're going to focus on cryptocurrency and driverless cars and their favorite sports team and their checking accounts running down, things that are more immediate. I mean, the one message I would leave to your audience, one suggestion is test your tap water.
Okay.
Test your tap water, and if somebody wants to test their tap water, there's a company called MyTapScore. MyTapScore. It's the best water testing technology company solution in the U.S. MyTapScore.com. Go on there, create an account, swipe your credit card. A box comes in the mail. You fill it up with your tap water. Put the jar back in the. This comes with postage. You send it to a lab. About a week later, you get back an email that tells you exactly what's in your water, and it scores. Use an algorithm to score it 1 to 100. So you got a 95. That's really good water. You got a 65. There's some badness in your water. So that is the. If I'm you and I'm thinking I want to get on top of my water, water usage is hard to control because it's so the virtual water of power and meat and all these things in my fridge. But what you can control is test your tap water that you're using for cooking and drinking. And once you find out what's in it, then you can call a solutions provider, a plumber, or Culligan or Brita and be like, if you got a 97 on your water, like you probably don't need much filtration, unless you don't like the taste. But like, there's nothing in the water that'll make you sick. Just keep drinking it all day long. But if you get a 52, I guarantee you there's lead in that water, and that will give you neurological problems. Like, you've got to know.
What was that? What was that company called again?
mytapscore.com.
mytapscore.com. Cool. Well, if
So
anyone
it's not free.
Yeah,
But like the city that you're buying water from, you go online, they're like, our water's compliant. It is probably at the plant, but by the time it gets to your house and up to your there's no guarantees.
Yeah. Well, if anyone was, if anyone else is interested, inspired by the conversation, is there a best way to get in touch or follow along with the work that you're doing?
Yeah, just find me on LinkedIn and reach out, and I'd welcome the opportunity to continue this discussion with anybody one-on-one.
Great. John, well, thank you so much for your time. I know you got to go. I would be very interested in continuing this, so I'm excited to do that. But thank you.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Blake. Appreciate all the hard work you're doing in the space and spreading good messages to a broader audience. Well done.
That's right. Just like we did today.
Yeah. Cool. Love it. Thanks, man.